asked the nurse if she could use my period blood instead of my venous blood. That is disgusting, she said. She dismissed the idea completely.
And you used the word disgusting?
Yeah, we have over 455 years less research on the female physiology than the male physiology.
455 years?
Yes, so the first time a woman was part of that research was in 1997.
Oh my God, that's the year I was born. Anything about what's in menstrual blood?
Menstrual blood contains DNA, immune cells, biomarkers, proteins. The stem cells are super interesting because it's better quality stem cell.
And we have got these high quality stem cells in our menstrual blood every month.
Every month we've just flushed them away in the toilet. When we feel pain in our uterus, we feel it in a different part of our brain than when we break an arm or bump our toe against the bed or anything like that. But this is why you might find when you take ibuprofen for cut finger, it works better than when you take it for period pain because it numbs the wrong part of the brain that feels the pain.
Oh my God.
To that nurse who told me my idea was disgusting, thank you for the motivation.
Before we get started, I want to introduce you to Nature Care, who are supporting today's episode. For years, I never thought twice about my period products. I just went for whatever's on the shelf. But what I didn't realise is that we were never actually taught what's in our period products or what they're even made from. For example, do you know that food, beauty, and cigarette products have all been through more safety regulations than period products? This is all because period product brands aren't legally required to disclose their ingredients, leaving us with conventional brands that may have up to 5 carrier bags worth of plastic, artificial fragrances, chlorine bleach, and other nasties that you want nowhere near your vulva. That's where Nature Care comes in. In 1989, their founder, Susie Houston, founded the first organic tampon. And since then, they've created a line of period and personal care products that focus on ingredient transparency and having a positive impact on the environment. We weren't taught that we had a choice when it comes to our period products, but we absolutely do. Our bodies deserve so much better than the plastics, chemicals, and fragrances that flood the high street market. So girls, have you actually ever really thought about what's in your period products? And if not, now is definitely the time to start. And you can start by using our exclusive listener discount, INJAP15, at the checkout. For more information and to find your next period product, visit www.naturecare.com because your body deserves nothing but the best when it comes to your period. Now let's get back to today's episode.
Karli, welcome to the Girl Chat. It's so lovely to have you here. I'm really excited to have someone with your level of expertise on the show to discuss a topic that we actually talk about a huge amount, which is periods and menstrual blood. But we don't talk about it in the way that we're going to talk about it today in terms of the science of what it could show us. So I would love to start with your personal experiences, what interactions you've had with the healthcare system, and how potentially that then led and shaped what you do now with Blake Health.
Alex, I'm very excited to be here, especially when I read the name of your podcast. It's not just a period. I thought, wow, this is really amazing. But then when I went through all of the episodes, I was fascinated that you haven't actually talked about the science yet. So I'm super excited to be here and shed some light on that. And it just comes to show you how important periods are to women. I think that's the biggest thing I took away from listening to all of your episodes. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
So when I was at uni, I became really, really ill and they couldn't find what was wrong with me. I had to go for routine blood tests like every week.
Okay.
And when I felt my worst, because I will have good episodes or good days and bad days, and even within the day it will fluctuate. So when I felt my worst, I had to go to the nurse and get my blood drawn. And I have both a needle and a blood phobia. I faint actually at the sight of blood.
No.
And you would think after weekly blood tests that would have surpassed it, but it hasn't still. So I was on my period during one of the appointments, and I asked the nurse if she could use my period blood instead of my venous blood
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like really scared. It's not comfortable. I'm never going to get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was actually quite, she said that that's a disgusting idea. She was quite shocked that I even mentioned it.
She
And
used the word disgusting.
yeah, that's disgusting. And she dismissed the idea completely. And I carried on with my day, but my fascination with the human physiology is always, I'm always surrounded by someone in the science field or the medical field. I'm fascinated by the human physiology, but because I fainted the sight of blood, I pivoted and went into business management and
Wow.
IT as a career. And then when I fell pregnant, I wanted to sleep on my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it wasn't safe because I couldn't find a pillow that would just allow me to do that without it being huge, bulky, and quite frank, revolt looking. Like 2 holes for your boobs, 1 hole for your bump. It was like,
God.
I was like, no, I don't want this in my house. I definitely don't want it in the bedroom.
Okay.
So I started diving into why isn't there a pillow for women to sleep on their stomach at home? And I found all of this fascinating research dated back to 1998
Okay.
that was done in Japan that showed that it's not only safe to sleep on your stomach, it's actually beneficial.
Really?
Yes. And at the same time, a huge research study was published that was funded by Tommy's charity that showed that when you go to sleep on your back, it increases or doubles your chances of stillbirth. So women shouldn't go to sleep on their back. They should go to sleep on their sides or their stomach. And this whole thing landed me a research partnership with the University of Manchester. And I created a pregnancy pillow that lets women sleep on their stomach. But through that journey, I came to learn what we know today as the gender health gap, which is the fact that we have over 455 years less research on the female physiology than the male physiology.
455 years.
Yes. So the first time a person was researched on was in the 1500s, 1537, I think.
Okay.
The first time a woman was part of that research was in 1997.
Oh
So-
my God, that's the year I was born.
Well, exactly.
Oh my God.
Yes. So, and through that, with women now being allowed to participate, it's not nearly enough. We're not participating in 50% of clinical trials. Women are still in the majority excluded from research. But the research we have done, we have now come to know that the female physiology is significantly different to that of the male physiology in all aspects. Our heart, our lungs, our brains, our livers, our kidneys, everything functions differently. We react to drugs differently than men. There is just so much interesting research happening in this space.
Yeah.
But it's just very slow because we have 450 years to catch up.
I mean, the word gap almost doesn't feel appropriate. I think
Yeah, it's
we need a new...
Missing.
It feels like void or ocean or something much bigger to describe that. That is
Exactly.
enormous.
No, it is quite scary,
Yeah.
but also very exciting about what we can learn if we truly dive into this and and see what we can discover. But it was then through that journey and a friend of mine getting a reminder letter for a smear test
Okay.
that I just don't know why we cannot use our menstrual blood to perform smear tests. It is a horrible experience. I'm not saying it's
Awful.
not exactly. I'm not saying it's not important. It is important because when I start diving into it, like, what is your experience of a smear test? Everyone's like, oh, well, it's fine because, it's important and you need to get it checked out. That's not my question. My question is, when you are going for a smear test, what is your experience?
Yeah.
And actually, especially women who suffer from traumatic, but even I didn't have a traumatic birth, and even I hate going for smear tests. It's one of the worst experiences.
Yeah.
And this friend had 2 traumatic births. So she had even more of like a barrier to go.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I just don't know why we can't just use our menstrual blood. It flows through the cervix, out the vagina. Surely those HPV cells are present in our menstrual blood. And that's where I really picked it up again, and really thought like, okay, what can I do to support closing the gender health void, as you called it, faster? Because we don't have another 450 years to close it.
No, please tell me we don't.
And
Please tell me we don't have to wait 450 years to close it.
No, well, there has been recently a article published, I think in Forbes, that said that it will take 156 years to close, but it's still not fast enough.
Oh my word.
And yes, I thought, okay, I want to see the smear test using menstrual blood go to market. And when I found out at that time, there was basically one company who have been going through clinical trials using a menstrual pad called Cuven in the USA.
Okay.
Because back when I originally suggested this use of using menstrual blood as a diagnostic, and the nurse found it revolting, there was nothing. I couldn't find anything about menstrual blood research anywhere published. Now, when I picked this up, there was just under 400 research studies, and that's now gone up to just under 700 in 3 years.
Wow.
I know, which is very exciting.
Now that's positive.
Yes.
That's exponential growth in the best possible way, isn't it? So
exactly.
Is it around 3 years ago when you started Blake Health?
Yeah, when I had the idea of... So basically, what I saw with Cuven is they were millions into fundraising, like 20 million, like millions. And they took about 8 years to get FDA approval. 8 years.
8 years.
And the FDA didn't know how to categorize this invention. So they had to create a new category in order to put it, because it didn't fit into any box.
Because we'd never thought to use menstrual blood.
Exactly.
So again, it was just another gap within the bigger gap.
Exactly. The gap in the gap in the gap.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, wait, I'm not going to contribute to this. There's a lot of researchers, and through market research, there's a lot of researchers who start research on menstrual blood, but then give up.
Oh.
And due to various reasons, accessibility, stigma around periods, everyone's whispering about it. No one's talking about it. You won't dare say you're on your period to anyone other than your friend when you don't want to get into the swimming pool. So there's a lot of stigma around menstrual blood as well. And we have a lot of education to happen that needs to happen in this space. So I said, okay, how can I support closing the gender health gap? Because that's what I'm passionate about. That's what I want to see. I'm super interested in all the research. I find it fascinating. I love reading research papers. But then also support these innovations to go faster and get there faster. And that's how I came up with Blake Health, which is building the women's health infrastructure that's missing in order to accelerate the research in this field.
Wow. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I'm so grateful that you are doing that. And you can really see the passion when you talk about it. I can light up when you talk about it. I can see that the gender health gap void ocean is... So it kind of goes to the heart of you and what you see and what you care about. So when you talk about building the infrastructure, what does that mean when we use the word infrastructure?
So originally I set out to build a biobank.
Okay.
And when you read any earlier articles, you'll see that that's how it's being positioned. But since then, we have discovered and unlocked the gap, as you say, has turned into multiple gaps. And we have now turned it into really building that foundational layer. We are not taking anything as an assumption.
Okay.
We leave no stones unturned. If we think menstrual blood will be compatible, just to give you a simple example, PCR test, you know, the test that you do for COVID where you swab your nose, you put it in the thing, you dip it
Yes.
in, and then it gives you a reading of positive and false.
Yes, triggering memories coming back from those years.
Okay, maybe use a pregnancy test as another example.
But yes, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Menstrual blood is not compatible with that technology. We have to develop the technology to make it compatible.
Oh my God.
Yes, and that's one example. I can give you. I'm ready to write a book on it.
Please give me a few more. I'm so fascinated.
There's no insurance available off the shelf to collect menstrual blood. We take out specialized insurance.
Okay.
Like it's not covered. So you can send sperm, urine, blood, poop in the post. But if you want to send menstrual blood, you need specialized insurance.
Because it's not covered within those.
No one thought about it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's a huge risk because women don't want to do this. It's so many weird things we're being told.
It's a huge risk. I mean, who finds it fun to send their poo in a envelope in the post? I mean,
come on.
No judgment, but are we really saying there's this like huge fundamental difference between sending blood from another part of the body or other bodily fluids to menstrual blood? Like, really?
Venous blood to me is much more invasive to collect and send in the post than menstrual blood.
Yes.
Women get menstrual blood on their hands monthly for decades. It's been happening.
Yes.
It's just, and it comes back to the stigma in it. So on the one hand, we are building this infrastructure that will support the acceleration of this research. But on the other hand, we're also building a community where we're breaking down that stigma, not just for women donating menstrual blood, but also policymakers, businesses, pharmaceuticals. There's a huge piece of work to be done in that space.
I was about to ask you actually who's in that community, and it's really encouraging to hear both the people on the receiving side of like the patient, the women, but like you say, all those people that are absolutely fundamental in making a difference in closing that gender gap.
Exactly.
I agree, I think there's a huge stigma around menstrual blood and periods. When you use the word stigma, what have you seen or heard? What does it kind of mean to you?
My favorite one recently is that a male investor, I'm not saying all men, okay? I don't want to do that because men is absolutely pivotal in us breaking down the stigma. But this male investor told me he found reading my pitch deck really disturbing and he felt a little lightheaded. Yeah. So,
oh God,
poor guy.
Oh, you poor little petal. I really feel for you. You felt lightheaded.
Yeah.
Come on.
And he's got daughters.
Oh, come on. Like, oh, God.
But this is the reality we're facing. And I think if we ignore it, I mean, we can sit here and we can make fun of it, but that is the reality we're facing. So we had to restructure exactly the way we are positioning ourselves, exactly how much we are using the word menstrual blood and period blood. And it's ridiculous, but if that is going to help us move forward, shift the dial, and break down the barriers in order to close the gender health gap fast. And we believe, and we are seeing already that menstrual blood is absolutely doing that and can be the center of helping us do that faster, then, I'll use the word menstrual blood less.
Wow. And it's so interesting because there's an emotional part of me that hears that. And like you say, you can feel anger and frustration and it can bring up a lot of emotions. But like you say, sounds like you have to very tactically play the game and play the system to get to a point where you can change things from the inside.
Yeah. And there's also a way in which you show up. If you show up confident in the way you position things, then it lowers that barrier and it becomes more inviting. An example of that is we had this one guy we were talking about policy and grant funding and all of these things. And he found it really interesting, but I already noticed quite early on he didn't use the word menstrual blood or period blood at all, just blood.
Okay.
Okay, so that's already a problem because we have to be very specific when we talk what blood we are talking about. Okay. And he said, oh, wait, I know a colleague who can actually help on this. Let me just dial him into this call if it's okay with you. And we were like, yes, sure. And he dials his colleague in and he's like, so these girls have a blood product. And I was like, what?
These girls have a blood product.
Yes. I was like, please, can I explain? Please, can I just talk about it? Because if you already start that way, the wall between you and the receiving person goes up. It doesn't come down.
Yes.
And that's what I mean with when you are then talking about it more confidently, or going to Costa and say, I'm not here to buy a coffee, but can I use your bathroom to change my tampon? The guy behind or the girl will be shocked, but you are taking one step in breaking down that wall, one step in breaking down that barrier. And you might think, oh, it's one person, it's one Costa, it doesn't matter. But that person comes away, goes out for a drink and tell their friends what happened today, and suddenly it becomes a bigger conversation. And right now, our family and friends, they talk to us and about menstrual blood around the dinner table, not poop, but menstrual blood, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting example that you've just used. That's really made me stop and think, actually, because as someone that lives with endometriosis, I have suffered with severe heavy bleeding for so many years, to the point where it felt completely uncontrollable and it was very difficult to leave the house. But when I did leave the house, it felt like there was a huge risk factor there because I could flood and things could go wrong. So actually, for you to just use that example of going to a coffee shop and saying, I'm actually not here to buy a product, I just need to go and use the loo because I need to change my tampon or my pad or whatever. I've never in my lifetime thought about doing that, but you've really made me just stop and think, actually, and go, actually, yeah, why wouldn't you? If that's the truth, why wouldn't you? You have every right to go and use those facilities if you need to.
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you say that?
Yeah. I also, and I think this is controversial, but I also, when I'm on my period, I use a cup. I don't use a tap.
I'm the same.
Oh, well, we need to share notes on the cup experience.
Okay.
But and I go into the disability toilets to change my cup because there's a basin with the I'm not gonna like dribble out of the cubicle, wash my cup, and then dribble back in. Like, that's just unrealistic.
Yeah.
And I know already there's a lot of awareness raised about not all disabilities are noticeable.
Yes.
But I've been getting some really interesting looks as well when I come out of that bathroom. And I'm like, I'm on the period. I had to wash my cup. Like, I don't know what to say to you. Like, sorry that you had to wait, And again, I think by doing that, you're bringing down the wall instead of raising the wall, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You're almost, by going the other way, if you went into silence or you went into shame and you try to sneakily go past the Costa kind of desk and be like, oh, don't notice me, I need to go to the loo, which I'll be honest, I've done so many times in my life. But what really comes across when you talk about those examples is you are just so calm and centered when you make those statements of, I went to go use my cup, needed to change it, now it's free, you go ahead. It's that confidence, it's that word that you've used, confidence, that's okay to do and that's okay to say.
Exactly. And that's the one thing I think all women can do. Like, that's, if you want to make a change in closing the gender health gap and you think like there's nothing I could do, my opinion doesn't matter, I don't have the funds or the time or the means or the creativity or whatever you want to position it at, that is one thing you can do. It's just turn up confidently about your body. Your female body is different to the male body, and that is okay. Why is that shameful? Why should we be hiding that or as if it's wrong.
Yes.
And I did a TED talk at the end of 2024 about the power of menstrual blood. And as part of the TED talk, they did a documentary on really how I came about this idea, the gender health gap, the power of menstrual blood. And if anyone hasn't watched it, please go watch it because views is good.
Absolutely. And it will be fascinating.
And you
it's
will
a TED
learn
talk.
something from it. It's
Absolutely.
incredible. And Professor Erin Greaves from Warwick features on it as well. And she makes a very good point as well about endometriosis specifically. But when we were doing that, the research they've done, so they have a whole team that does research and they vet everything. And when we were doing some of the behind the scenes filming, they brought these old books that I found in a library. And every single book referred to human health, and it's the male physiology.
Wow.
And when they Googled male health, the results was a bit weird. When they Googled female health, it was all pregnant women or something to do with pregnancy or breastfeeding. But when they search human health or human physiology, it's all men that come up.
Wow.
And that just shows you how fragmented the data is as well, that underpins this. The stigma lives in the data. It's been created in the data. And this is why with the infrastructure we're building, we're really starting on ground zero.
Yeah.
And we're not even coming close to anything that will skew the data, skew the infrastructure, not make this specific to female health versus male health. That distinction is super, super important. And we see a world and it's already starting to happen, which is very exciting, but we see a world where you have male-specific doctors and female-specific doctors when it comes to heart, lung, kidney, bladder, brain health, all of it. There will be specialities within the physiology type.
Wow. Okay. So if you were to go to secondary care for a heart problem, we're looking to move towards a time where a woman would go to one person and a man would go to another.
Yes.
Because they're two very different conversations.
Exactly.
Oh,
Different
wow.
drugs, different conversation, all of it. And we see this already in ADHD. Women who have ADHD need to take almost double the medication when they're on their period or a week before their period. So the luteal phase.
Yes.
They have to take double the amount of medication when they're in the follicle phase or the phase after ovulation
Yeah.
up to the phase after period up to ovulation. They don't need to take as much ADHD medication. We see that with vitamin D as well. Women who take double the amount of vitamin D during their luteal phase versus their follicle phase have less PMDD symptoms.
Wow.
Yeah, like we're seeing this already. Very preliminary research, but
Yes.
absolutely fascinating. And it's not marginal, it is enormous. Like the difference is, incredible.
That is fascinating. Wow. And again, what I love is you have such fantastic examples of how these differences are so stark, and it's so helpful, especially for our girls that are listening that have obviously probably have no experience of the research world, of the world that you live in and you work in. So to understand it through those real life examples are really, really helpful. So thank you.
Oh.
What I really want to move on to is menstrual blood, because as a woman, we have our periods. If we, unless we're on contraception, we might have a withdrawal bleed, but if not, we're natural, we have our periods. And we've talked about the stigma, and we've talked about changing products or using a cup and getting it on your hands and maybe seeing clots or seeing different colours. But I certainly don't or wasn't taught anything about what's in menstrual blood.
My favorite subject.
Let's delve into it, because it's not just blood. I'm going to use quotation marks, blood.
And it's actually fascinating because the blood part of it is between 20 and 31% of the sample. The rest is endometrial tissue,
Okay.
actual tissue that comes away from the womb, and mucus. Yes, and the blood is what gives it the color, and then the endometrial lining is quite dark. So I actually don't personally. I don't really like when there are posts about the color of your menstrual blood means X, Y, and Z, because I always come from research. I always come from evidence-based facts. And the reality is we haven't done research on that.
No.
We haven't done any research on the color of menstrual blood. And what we're seeing in the lab is the darker the blood, the healthier it is, actually. Not to the point where it's black, but when you hold your blood should be black if you're using a cup.
Okay.
And when you hold it against the light is when you see like a red tint, because blood is such a small part of the sample. Where the redder your blood is, the heavier bleeder you probably are.
Wow.
So we can collect 2 samples from 2 different women, 10 mils both, and we can tell immediately which one is heavy menstrual bleeder and which one isn't, on the same amount of blood, but the color differences. And today, and that's also very skewed, based on research done in Canada, that if you bleed through, you would know this more than I do, but if you bleed through what, 10 tampons in an hour, your class as a heavy menstrual bleeder or something like that.
If you change your tampon every hour or so,
Okay.
I think is the GP
Because not
line.
10.
I mean, it was bad already, but 10 would be, oh, I don't want to think about 10 an hour. Don't want to think about that. But yeah, I think like a fully soaked, heavy, non-usable after an hour or so, or a few hours, they tend to say is heavy bleeding.
So I think we're going to find in the next easily 5 years, heavy menstrual bleeding will not just be about the menstrual products you use or the amount you're using. It will go around volume, and it will be about the color as well.
We're taking a quick break to say thank you to today's sponsor, BU Period. When it comes to women's health, I'm obsessed with all things holistic and natural. My go-to product is BU's pain relief patches. The combination of menthol and eucalyptus is pure bliss when an endo flare hits. Whether it's pelvic pain, back pain, leg pain, or anything else, they give me the instant and long-lasting relief I need. And you can even set up your own subscription so that you never run out of natural pain relief. If you want to get your hands on BU's patches, you can find the link in the show notes. And make sure you use the code INJAP10 to get your exclusive listener discount. Now let's get back to the gal chat. Interesting.
Yeah.
And actually on volume, because we've mentioned that we both use cups,
Yes.
which is really interesting. And now, over a decade into my journey of like having periods and living with endometriosis, it was the first time that I started using cups a few months ago. And what's really interesting for me, I mean, my heavy bleeding, touch wood, has massively improved and things are not what they used to be when I was 16. But I was really shocked at the volume of blood in that cup after 12 hours or a full day at work compared to when I would change and remove a tampon. And I think what I thought the amount when I looked at that tampon, such a big difference.
And the color.
And the color.
Because the research in Canada was published in 2023 where they found that, and they didn't even use menstrual blood. So anyone who wants to do research on products absorbing menstrual blood, reach out to me. I'm interested. But they found in Canada they used expired human blood, and they tested different tampon, cup, and pad manufacturers or types or brands. And they all absorbed the blood differently. And most of them didn't absorb any blood. They actually just absorbed like the watery bit of the blood. Because all period products are tested with saline. And saline is like water. It's not actually any not near any consistency of menstrual blood. So the tampon that you pulled out and you thought, wow, it's so big and it's absorbed so much, it's actually just a little water bit in it that it's absorbed. It's not absorbed the actual menstrual blood, which is why everyone who bleeds have stained underwear, basically. Also, there's, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but there was recently also about lead in tampons and how bad that is for women. Did you see all of that?
I did.
And I just want to say, yes, lead is bad, but in massive quantities. And if you're going to have cotton, all cotton contains lead.
Yes.
cotton doesn't exist without lead. Like,
Okay.
that is just, so it's more about choosing a brand that is conscious of that and is manufacturing at a high standard, or even better, medical grade standard, without having the need to do it, because there is no regulation around medical products, period products. That is your safest bet if you want to choose a pad or tampon brand to use. But people, I think there's so much fear again. And why is this? I don't know if I'm just in the women's health space that I notice this all the time, but I feel like there's always something fear-mongering around women's health and women's health products. And I just I don't see this happening anywhere else in the space, the health space.
No.
To that degree, I don't see it. If anyone sees that, please send it to me. I would love to not feel this way, but I always feel there's such fear-mongering around women's health and women's health data and women's health products.
I think you're right. I think it's the irony that the gap, the women being excluded from trials, all the things we talked about, the historical context has got us to where we are today. And yet, in lots of ways, the mechanisms and the way society works has got us there. But then that same society also then uses that to create the fear, to create the negativity.
Create the barrier, the gap.
Yes, to perpetuate all of those problems.
Exactly.
Which is incredibly ironic.
Yeah, exactly. It drives me mad.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
But sorry, I feel like we've gone on a tangent. But so menstrual blood contains blood, endometrium lining, mucus.
Yes.
But the thing that fascinates me about it is that it contains hundreds of proteins that's not found in systemic blood. And those proteins can tell us a lot about the female physiology. Those proteins can find biomarkers for endometriosis, PCOS, ovarian cancer, breast cancer even.
Wow. I mean, this was my exact next question.
Okay, great.
What can it show us? What can it show us?
So menstrual blood contains DNA, obviously, immune cells, biomarkers, proteins, stem cells even. And the stem cells are super interesting because it's better quality stem cells.
And what does that mean?
It means that today, if you want stem cell treatment for leukemia, you have to go on special or donate stem cells for leukemia treatment. You have to go on specific medication, and then for 2 weeks, I think. And then you need to extract stem cells from bone marrow, which is, again, big needles, lots of needles here.
Yeah.
It's very invasive, it's very painful, and you feel quite poorly afterwards. And it's not always successful, stem cell treatment or bone marrow stem cell treatment. Menstrual blood stem cells are a higher, how do I say this? It's a better quality than bone marrow, which means it can be used to treat leukemia and will probably be more successful. Also Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. There's loads of clinical trials going on looking at how stem cells and menstrual blood could actually support and treat these conditions. Which is fascinating. And if you think about it, it's a lot less invasive. We don't need special, drugs or anything to get the best quality, because they just are the best quality already.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's much more accessible. And I believe if women know more about this, because stem cells are very weird. It can get very sci-fi very quickly, if I'm honest.
Okay. I mean, you hear the word stem cell and stem cell research, and you often hear it from a layman's point of view in the realms of the research is really complicated and the science is fascinating and the results could be amazing, but oh my God, it's an absolute minefield.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm by no means an expert, but stem cells are the things that make things grow in our body is maybe the best way. It's the transporters. So for example, you can use stem cells to grow organoids. So you can grow a heart, a liver, not a brain. I almost say brain, not brains. And then you can test drugs. So we can grow little uteruses from stem cells out of menstrual blood, and then taste drugs and see how the drugs perform or the impact of those drugs on those organs.
Oh, that's incredible. Oh my God, I'm blown away. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. And we have got these high quality stem cells in our menstrual blood every month.
Every month we've just flushed them away in the toilet.
Yeah.
The ones that's not absorbed by our tampons.
Yeah. It's not on a product, it's damn toilet.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that's the simple, I mean, any researchers listening to this, don't come for me, okay? Like, I'm trying to explain it in the plainest possible language.
Yes.
But it contains all of these hundreds of proteins that's not found in our systemic blood, and it could hold the answer to finding biomarkers for endometriosis, but also treatment. So there's this incredible companies looking to use menstrual blood to see how thick your endometrium lining is, called gene fertility. So they look at how thick your endometrium lining is. That's the diagnostic they are developing, so that you have better chances of IVF success, because that doesn't exist. It's sort of a prey to the evidence if you're successful or not.
It's a total lucky dip. Depends when you go, what day, what circumstances. Good luck.
Yeah, and the success rates are quite poor, very poor. And then we have on the flip side of researchers who's looking at using your own stem cells in your own menstrual blood to develop a treatment to thicken your endometrium lining. And this has always been the vision, is that you have on the one side the diagnostic being developed, and on the other side the treatment being developed. And both of those things are happening at once.
Wow.
Instead of the one after the other. And that's really why I set out to build Blake Health and not another diagnostic, because I feel like that's where I can add value. That's my contribution.
Yeah.
And where I can truly support the acceleration of closing the gap.
It is. It genuinely gives me so much hope. I actually feel it's quite emotional to hear for someone that's lives with and might forever, depending on my generation and how the research goes, you know, who I was told, you will have this forever, this will be your life now. To have someone like yourself doing in this world, helping with this work, building the foundation, the infrastructure, it's huge for me to hear that there's this incredible part of our body, menstrual blood, that can tell us so much and could help finding so many answers for things like endometriosis and PCOS. Because, you know, as I'm sure you know, the diagnostic for endometriosis is invasive surgery. To completely 100% find it or not. I'm going to say treatments in quotation marks, because there's not actually a treatment pathway, but one of the things that can help is surgery. But again, so invasive. And I don't want someone, you know, I've had every 2 to 3 years, I've had someone going inside my body and cutting things and messing with things. And I don't want to do that for the rest of my life.
No. And the good news is, Alex, is that there are more development in the treatment for endometriosis than there is diagnostics, which I think is positive. It has a positive and a negative point to it. But endometriosis treatments have actually entered clinical trials, where for diagnostics it hasn't yet entered into clinical trials, which I think is positive in that sense, because like you say, you don't want to go for surgery every 3 years. And also, did you watch the latest BBC documentary with Emma Bartlett?
I did.
So I cried that whole thing through.
It was about 30 seconds in and I was already crying. Actually, what's really special for me was I watched it. I asked my partner, Charlie, to watch it with me, because I said it would be really lovely for me as my partner, as a man, as somebody not living this, for you to watch it with me. And we had a really interesting discussion afterwards, and it was great. But yes.
The wall came down.
The wall came down. Exactly.
Incredible.
Yes.
No, I cried that whole thing through. And yeah, I think that documentary especially showcased the treatment, how the treatment is. We need a lot more. Listen, I'm not by any means saying that this is resolved. Would it be resolved in 5 years? I'm not sure either. Probably not. If you have to go through clinical trials at least. But it's so incredible to see that these things are already in clinical trials, which is a lot better than it not being, and it's still
Yes.
preliminary research. So,
Yes.
fingers crossed it will get there. Because there's also, I know a friend of mine had a hysterectomy, and it's still growing back.
Yes.
So there's that risk as well.
It's one of the biggest. We have it so much on our social media. We have a huge amount of people commenting and sharing their stories, which is amazing. So it's why we do this. We want people to share their stories with us. But we have so many comments still. And I think we will continue to, unfortunately. It's two of the biggest misinformation. And it's only, obviously, a hysterectomy can help some people, but it's only when it comes from a misinformation point of view of a clinician sitting and saying to someone, you should have a hysterectomy because it will cure endo, or you should get pregnant because it will cure endo. But like you say, it's a systemic full body disease. It can grow anywhere.
Exactly.
You mentioned that in your personal opinion, from what you see, you would like, in the best case scenario, it'd be great to have diagnostic and treatments alongside each other, like both happening at the same time. Why do you have that opinion?
Because that's how we can then accelerate it.
Okay.
Really, because we have one participant
Right.
that contributes to both the diagnostics and the treatment. And then we can see both those things enter the market, because sometimes there's also a big thing of we can't do a diagnostic. No, there's a big, when you're building a diagnostic or treatment, if you don't have a pathway for one or the other, they can't go to market, essentially. So it's great that we have a treatment going in, but how are you diagnosing those people who needs the treatment?
Yeah.
And it's great that you have a diagnostic pathway, but what do you do about it? You can't tell someone you've got endometriosis and then tell them which is what's happened.
Yeah.
And look at the shit show.
Yes.
Sorry, but it is a shit show, because women are so happy to have a diagnostic or a diagnosis, but then they go, okay, now what? What do I do now? And it's like, nothing. You have to come for surgery every 3 years, and there's nothing more we can do.
Yeah.
You know, that is horrible on both those sides.
Yes.
So if we can push both of those out at the same time, then we can truly accelerate it. That's how I see it.
It makes absolute perfect sense. It's very much, in an ideal situation, you wouldn't or you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
Because you're providing a solution, but then also providing, in some ways, almost another problem, or highlighting another gap or another missing piece.
And this happens in women's, sorry for interrupting you.
No, please.
Yeah, this happens all the time in women's health, because there aren't, ibuprofen doesn't work because it numbs the wrong part of the brain when we're on our periods. Did you know that?
Wait, what? Oh my God, the amount of ibuprofen I've taken over the years. What? I've been taking ibuprofen for pain.
So
and when
we feel pain in our uterus, we feel it in a different part of our brain than when we break an arm or bump our toe against the bed or anything like that, cuts our finger.
Yeah.
So this is why, and then again, it's not for everyone, the case, which is, again, we don't know why, but this is why you might find when you take ibuprofen for cut finger, it works better than when you take it for period pain, because it numbs the wrong part of the brain that feels the pain.
Oh my God. That is, like, part of me is like, that's so interesting, like, tell me more. And the part of me is like, for fuck's sake. The amount of ibuprofen I've bought over the past decade.
Yeah. So your problem, again, and I don't want this to be like, don't take ibuprofen, don't take paracetamol, because those are your options. Let's be real about that. But I think it's about being informed and maybe treading on a cautious side of over medicating, or understanding that you maybe feel a bit drowsy or not so well in the weeks leading, in the weeks after that, because you have taken drugs that are numbing the wrong part of the brain.
Wow. And again, that almost makes me think of the very start of this conversation where we began, of women were not allowed to participate in clinical trials until 1997.
So ibuprofen and paracetamol has not been tested on women in clinical trials, and it's got FDA approval.
Ever.
Ever.
Oh my word.
Yeah. Before it hit the market, none of those have been done. There's now more research, which is why
Mhm.
we now know, oh, period pain doesn't actually go away with ibuprofen or paracetamol because it's, targeting a different part of the brain.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my word. I'm learning so much. This is absolutely incredible. I'm learning so much. It's amazing. Um, I mean, in some ways, we've talked about a lot of challenges already, but I suppose for you as an individual, when you think about Blake Health and what you are doing and your mission that you've talked so clearly about, what do you think currently or in the future are your biggest hurdles? Can you see things coming down the line where you're thinking, right, okay, we need to jump over that hurdle, we need to approach that?
And yes and no,
Okay.
which I think is normal in building a business.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of 2023, I actually walked away from £1 million investment because there were loads of conditions I wasn't comfortable with.
Okay.
And now that I look back, I'm like, thank the Lord I didn't take that investment, because the things I've learned in the last 2 years could have never prepared me, and £1 million wouldn't have been enough
Okay.
to solve those problems.
Yeah.
And we've been very lucky to be able to bootstrap. I have an incredible founding team that I've built over the 2 years. Everyone, they not only their mission, but their passion and their ambition aligns with mine, which is to me very important when building a business that you see drive so much social impact and change.
Yes.
But the hurdles, I think one of the biggest things I am unsure about is still how the bigger, wider public is going to respond to sharing menstrual blood.
Okay.
I read a Instagram post recently where a woman was basically saying, well, this is my sacred blood, and why do big pharma now want it? Sort of, the way it was
Oh,
positioned.
okay.
I think the way in which we can make that better is by saying this is the benefits of sharing your menstrual blood. This is the benefits, and understanding very clearly what you are who you are sharing it with, for what reason, and having the choice to draw the line,
Yes.
essentially. And
Yeah.
that those things aren't buried in crazy legal documentation, which no one reads, me included,
Yeah.
I think that is one thing that's in the back of my mind where I'm thinking, like, I still am not sure. We did market research to show that where we put out to the public, like, if you would you share your menstrual blood to advance women's health research if you knew it could close the gender health gap and it could do it faster? And 83% said yes. And
Fantastic.
amazing. And the 17% who said no was either men, thank you for your contribution.
Men, oh, for goodness sake. Oh, okay, fine. Great. That's really good use of time and resources.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much. Or women who had a hysterectomy so they couldn't.
Yes.
Again, not saying your opinion doesn't matter, but you really didn't need to participate in the poll because it's not
Yes.
applicable. But then also women who said, no, but I would have if I still had a uterus and I was still bleeding.
Okay.
You know,
Yes.
so that makes me feel positive. But there is a little bit of me, a little part of me where I feel like we have a huge barrier, a huge stigma to still break down. And I mean, we've spoken about it at great length in this episode, but I feel like I feel like that is one thing which will surprise me either way.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
If it's good responses. I mean, we have a wait list of over 1,200 women last time I checked to donate their menstrual blood to research, which is incredible.
Wow.
But a part of me does wonder, like, how is that going to grow as we grow? How are women going to respond to that? And we have a few great ideas about either way how we will respond to that, but I do wonder about that quite a lot.
It is really interesting. Like you say, it's something that you we don't have a crystal ball. You won't know until you're there and you're doing that. I mean, you can say 1,201 now, because I will absolutely be donating anything that I need to, because from this conversation, you've convinced me. I was already convinced, but convinced me even more. But I think what's really interesting from a layman's point of view as well, like looking at your company and looking at the work you do, what I think builds a huge amount of trust for me, and what kind of makes me feel quite secure in what you're doing, is what you talked about with your founder team, of the mission, the passion, the heart, the ethics and the values behind why you started it and what you're doing. And I think there's a real human element to what you're doing. We talked about big pharma, and that can feel like a massive disconnect, I think, for a lot of people, between them as an individual and maybe these huge, big companies that maybe people don't know a huge amount about, of what goes on inside. But for a company like yourself, I think there is a really beautiful relationship that is there and continue to grow. At least that's
Thank
my
you for saying
experience.
that.
No, it's genuinely how I feel, having talked to you and learning about what you do.
Thank you. Yeah. No, and that's why I say it's important that it's not just a one-man band. It is really all of us to just start talking about it and make it a comfortable conversation. And I always say, when I'm on panel events or anything like that, people say, what are the one thing people in the audience can take away? And I always say, go back around the dinner table, or when you go out for a drink with your friends, and tell them one thing you learned today. Just one thing, because that one thing will have a ripple effect. And if it's something that you can tell them that someone else will remember to also carry on and carry on. There's this incredible, and do you watch Bridgerton, Alex?
Yes, of course. Love Bridgerton.
Love Bridgerton. And in season 1, there's a scene where Daphne is supposed to marry another guy.
Yes.
And then the mum, Violet, Lady Bridgerton goes like, we will do what women do best. We'll talk. And they spread this gossip about this guy with the aim to break down this proposal that Daphne got.
Yes.
And that's really how I look at menstrual blood.
That is such a brilliant comparison.
So, we will do what women do best. We'll talk. So.
Absolutely. I think women can be heavily criticized for that. There's a lot of that can be taken in lots of different ways, but I think very much going back to the comment you made about going into the coffee shop or saying things with confidence and being very open, we can use those skills in the best possible way.
Exactly.
We can
In
use
a
it to our
positive way.
advantage. Yes.
But gossip doesn't need to be a bad thing. It's just, how you translate it.
Yeah. Well, it's my favorite thing to do, talking.
Me too. I love talking.
I do. I spend all day, every day talking. It's my favorite thing, and trying to make a living out of it. So we can absolutely keep doing that. I do have a podcast tradition, but I'm wondering how it will apply, because normally it's from when we have ladies talk about personal experience of stories and things, there's a question that I ask. So I'll ask it, and I'm very intrigued by the answer. So I'd like you to imagine, Karli, that I'm not sat here, but the person that is here is a much younger version of you. Whether she is in her 20s, 30s, childhood, when she's going into the first career that she had, studying, it can be any time, but a pivotal time for you. And if she was sat right here and you could say anything to her, advice about life or the research or her path or her passion, what would you say?
I would say set up a Google alert for menstrual blood on any research studies and see how it evolves over the years. That's what I would say. Step number 1. If I look back at my career, I've always got bored. I never went down a specific career path like finance or telecoms or media. My experience range across all of those industries. And the main reason for that is because I love learning new things. And that is my favorite thing about Blake Alpha, seeing the research fresh off the boat. And even though we can't publish it yet or we can't talk about it yet, just seeing that, it makes me so excited. I love it because I learn something new. And I wish I did pivot into science or something medical. But my my fear of blood and needles prevented me from doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So in one way, I feel like I should have made more friends in this industry, because that was a harder job than I would have liked it to be. Although my best friend is a midwife and I've always had doctors around me, I feel like I should have done more in that space from an early age. But equally, because I've worked in so many industries, I am able to build this infrastructure because I understand so many different parts of how the world works and the way in which it's connected, that I feel like even that it's paying off already. You know, I'm not just a scientist, or I'm not just in finance or in medical or in media or in telecoms or in banking. I've worked across all of it. So I think if Karli walked out of that nurse's office in 2008, I wish she would have gone and set up a Google Alert. I don't know, did Google Alerts exist in 2008?
Now you're asking. I'm not the right person to ask that question. Let's say they did.
Need to Google that. But I wish I kept tabs more on that industry, really, because for most of my 20s, we moved to the UK from South Africa when I was very young, in my 20s, early 20s. And I wish, and I was a bit bored. I knew I wanted to do something bigger with my life. I just didn't know what that was. And I thought it was going to be the pregnancy pillow. Truly, I did. I had loads of very cool ideas to build that out. But I've exited that business and I'm now on this new path, which feels more home to me. But in my 20s, I did feel like I want to do something more impactful with my life. And I wish I kept tabs on menstrual blood research.
Well, I think that is the takeaway. Everyone needs to set up the equivalent of a Google alert
on menstrual blood
and Blake Health, and follow what's happening.
Thank you.
You have been phenomenal. I cannot thank you enough, not only for the conversation, but just for educating me so much. I have, just like you, I love learning. So thank you.
I have some really exciting news to share with you all. For the past few months, we've been working on a project really close to my heart. As you guys know, I've lived with endometriosis and adenomyosis for over a decade now. And during that time, I've learned something really important. As women, we know when something is wrong. We aren't dramatic, hysterical, or making it up. We are battling a system rigged against us. Women have been set up to fail, and so I've made it my mission to change that. And the first step is finally ready. Introducing the Guide to Diagnosis as part of our brand new series, Hack the System. This guide will empower you to advocate for yourself, know your rights as a patient, and get the answers that you need. If you're struggling to get a diagnosis, being dismissed, gaslit, and ignored in the doctor's office, then this guide is for you. To find out more, click the link in the description. And as a thank you for being an It's Not Just a Period listener, we are giving you an exclusive listener discount. Just use INJAP10 at the checkout. And that brings us to the end of today's Girl Chat. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can stay up to date by following us on socials at itsnotjustaperiod.uk. To find out more about today's guest and for the link to our brand new The Guide to Diagnosis, check out the show notes. We cannot wait to see you for the next Girl Chat. And in the meantime, remember girls, it's not just a period.